There is a noise in your head. It's not neutral, it's not composed of a single source. Most people never question the voice they follow, but what you agree with internally will shape your life. This is where discernment begins and reckoning is discovered. Welcome to the Voice in the Reckoning podcast. I am John Diomede.
Episode 6, The Intimacy of Observation. What you look at matters. I grew up in a very interesting time, the 70s. The 70s was a very loose time when it comes to sexuality and violence. In the 70s, catcalling was acceptable. It's not anymore. In the 70s, a woman couldn't respond to catcalling. Not that a woman would want to, but today, a woman might gesture in response to a catcall to show the other person that they are rejecting that abusive behavior. That was the kind of time we lived in the 70s. Times were different. Society was different. Norms were different. And so what you look at matters. And it matters more than you think. Because what you repeatedly observe, you begin to carry. Again, for me, back in the 70s, it was a difficult time. Movies were overtly sexual. Now it is more subtle. Nakedness in the 70s was normal. Nakedness today is measured, planned, designed, and most of the time, it's not even included in the movie. So what you see, you will carry. And what you carry begins to shape you. There's a principle here. It goes something like this. What you behold, you become. It's not immediate, but it is progressive. It occurs quietly. It is very consistent. Observation is not passive. It is participation. When I think about the example that I use with movies, my wife is not a violent person, and my wife will not watch violent movies. She understands the principle that participation is a part of observation. Back to my example of movies in the 70s, and even movies today. I have arrived at a point, because of this principle, where I choose not to watch movies that are going to influence or invade the structure that I have built up in my mind and the voice of the Holy Spirit leading me and guiding me. So keep in mind, attention to something is not neutral. What you give your attention to, you give space to. And what you give space to begins to take form within you. It's not dramatic, it's subtle, but it is consistent. Consider what you observe daily. Input from the media, input from politics, from entertainment, social content, conversations, and the always important internal replay of all of these conversations and images. We also embrace fear narratives. They ruin people's lives. Lust, anger, and the most subtle of all, comparison. We very rarely consider that we are making a comparison, and that comparison is causing us to behold an image not proposed by the Holy Spirit, but proposed by the world, an image in our mind. These are not just inputs, they are influences. They are voices that guide you. They have an internal effect. You may think, I'm just watching this It's entertainment. I'm just listening. It doesn't affect me. But it does. What you repeatedly expose yourself to, you begin to normalize. Now, it may not be violence. It may be politics. It may not be lust. It may be an ideology. But keep in mind, what you normalize, you begin to accept. Let me give you an example of two diametrically opposed group ideologies. Now, generalizations are not good, even the comment that generalizations are not good. But there are two ideologies out there, and there are individuals within those groups. It's not the entire group, but there are individuals within those groups. The two ideologies that I am bringing up today are Christianity and homosexuality. Again, keep in mind this is not universal. It is just different individuals within the groups. Some individuals in Christianity, because of biblical content, display poor attitude toward homosexuals. They ostracize them, they bully them, and they do it all in the name of God. On the homosexual ideology, we have the same feelings: anger, vitriol, frustration. And believe it or not, some of them do it in the name of God, because God is compassionate. So again, keep in mind it's not universal in each group. For myself, I don't subscribe to either ideology. My ideology is everyone is broken, and they need compassion and mercy. This is how Jesus of Nazareth lived his life. Not in judgment, but in compassion and mercy. So, both of those groups have normalized certain type of thinking. Let me refrain. So, individuals in both of those groups have normalized certain type of thinking. What you accept, you begin to reflect. And this drives down deeper, to a deeper level. Spiritual numbness. Over time, something happens. Sensitivity decreases. Discernment dulls. Clarity fades. Not all at once, but gradually. Because repeated exposure produces internal familiarity. Internal familiarity is the trees blocking the view of the forest. So keep in mind episode 1 of my podcast, The Competing Influences, the Four Voices. The voice of the world presents content constantly. It just keeps drowning you in content. The demonic realm distorts our behavior and our thinking. It distorts our attitude, and it does it very subtly. And the self consumes both of these. But we must break away from those two, because the Holy Spirit calls you to examine. This is where the change needs to take place. You need to begin to examine what you think, why you think, how you think. Because not everything you see should be allowed to remain. This takes discipline. You must become intentional. You must guard what you allow in. As I said earlier, there are movies that I will not watch. And you don't have to guard it out of fear. You want to guard it out of awareness. Ask yourself the questions: what is this producing in me? What am I becoming familiar with? What is this shaping in my thinking? There is a shift you are desiring. Instead of passive consumption, become an active observer. Choose what you allow. Limit what you repeat if it is not guided by the Holy Spirit. Interrupt what distorts. This is not restriction, it is governance. Consider these questions. What do you give your attention to most? What has become normal that should be examined? Where has repetition reduced your sensitivity? What you behold, you become. Attention is not neutral, it is agreement. And agreement shapes your identity. Discern what you observe, submit to the Spirit, govern what you become. This is the voice in the reckoning.
Not every voice in your mind should lead. Discern the source before you release the thought. The wrong agreement leads to regrettable choices in life. The correct agreement leads to reckoning. This is the voice and reckoning. Have a good day. For more information, visit our website, voiceandreckoning.com. To contact me, use the email address on that site.